So a bunch of comedians went to Saudi Arabia for a comedy festival. I don't really care all that much about this. They were paid a lot of money, and I don't care all that much about this. However, I have complete disdain for these comedians who were paid by Saudi Arabia, who had to negotiate what they'd be allowed to talk about, and then had the gall to criticize America. Namely Dave Chappelle. I tweeted this, and there are people like, you gonna name names, Tip? Bill Burr, hypocrite. Dave Chappelle, come on. I don't know that I can call him a hypocrite other than it's not just jokes. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can joke about most anything. The issue is that Dave Chappelle took money from Saudi Arabia while criticizing America, and that is hypocrisy. Now, apparently Tim Dillon was invited to this, but got uninvited because he said naughty things about Saudi Arabia, I guess. And he was bragging about, getting paid 400 grand or close to 400 grand. And I'm just like, guys, these people are for sale. A big divide in the culture war is those who want a better future and those who want money. Let's talk about this. From the Hollywood Reporter. Dave Chappelle criticizes free speech in America at Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival. It's easier to talk here than it is in America, the comedian told an audience at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. I'm just so sick of this because homie had to negotiate with Saudi Arabia on what he'd be allowed to talk about. And he's making these comments because people have lost their jobs for mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or in some more extreme cases, and a lot of them, calling for more assassinations, namely of like me. And I got to deal with these security threats. And I'm in contact. This is not an exaggeration nor a joke. I've been in contact in the past couple of days with the FBI over the severity of these threats, which are credible and horrifying. And I think we don't talk about it enough. And I think people on the right, not personalities, but they generally people in general they get the impression that we're all just hunky dory, everything's okay. Nah, man. Nah. So I don't take kindly to the mockery of the killing of Charlie Kirk because we are headed towards a civil war. I'm going to say it again. I'm not saying we're in civil war, but when Dave Chappelle can be protected in his career mocking the political assassination in one of the most brutal ways. A society that tolerates and venerates assassination is a society that has opened the door to civil war. End of story. Lines have been crossed. And I know there are going to be people, and maybe people like Joe Rogan would say, oh, you got to be allowed to joke about these things. Yes, depends on the joke. If the joke is you should be allowed to mock Charlie Kirk's death and Kirk himself in this context, you are saying to the left, a left-aligned individual who is accused of murdering Charlie Kirk, who just not even a year prior, a left-aligned individual was accused of murdering a healthcare CEO. You are saying it is okay to celebrate this. What does that mean? It means that these psychopaths are going to look at the landscape and say, if they go out and do the same thing, they will be venerated and celebrated. There is a path towards social success in murder, and that is a horrifying reality that is unacceptable. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, but Tim, Dave Chappelle, he makes jokes, he blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care, okay? I know that some of you do care. I draw the line at where we are going. This is the line. We have found our line. I'll explain a little bit. Let me give you the news first. Hollywood Reporter says Dave Chappelle criticized the status of free speech in the U.S. while on stage at Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia. He said, right now in America, they say that if you talk about Charlie Kirk, you'll get canceled. Chappelle told the Riyadh audience. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to find out. It's easier to talk here than it is in America. First of all, that's an egregious lie, as I already pointed out. And he's intentionally fanning the flames over assassination culture. And we just watched Charlie Kirk die. Chappelle later noted he feared returning to the U.S. because they're going to do something to me so that I can't say what I want to say. I mean, I just will no longer watch or support Dave Chappelle. I'm not going to play stupid games. I'm not playing stupid games. One local audience member referring to ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel reportedly marveled that it was surprising to hear Chappelle talk about Kirk in Riyadh when just recently America canceled Jimmy Kimmel doing the same. Now, I don't have Netflix. I'm surprised people actually do. But I'm not going to cancel everything Dave Chappelle has ever done. In the future, I will think about what he has said as it pertains to his body of work. I don't think he should. He's not a guy who can be fired. He's wealthy and all of these things. They say given Chappelle is obviously a comedian, anything he says on stage can arguably fall under the rubric of, well, he's just kidding. No, I'm not playing that game. But his comments are at the very least rather ironic. In Saudi Arabia, media outlets are licensed by the government, and there's a long list of prohibited speech, from anything that inflames public opinion against the state to promoting any non-Islamic religious expression. For instance, a student, Salma al-Shahab, got 34 years in prison for retweeting women's rights activists on X. She later got a reduced sentence from Global Outcry. Check this out. One comedian, Tim Dillon, said he was disinvited to attend the event for an unearthed joke that he previously made about Saudi Arabia, which arguably sends the message that if you wish to be invited to Riyadh, you better not make jokes out the country even when you're back home or have done so in the past. Hey, cancel culture. Comics attending the Riyadh Festival have come under fire by some for comedy washing. Dillon says he was offered $375,000, which gives a sense of a potential baseline. They don't have the full quote from Dillon in here. Comedian Bill Burr, after performing at the show's opening night on Friday, defended the project on his podcast. It was a great experience. He said it was great to experience that part of the world and be part of the first comedy festival over there in Saudi Arabia. The royals loved the show. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. The comedians that I've been talking to say, dude, you can feel the audience wanted it. They wanted to see real stand-up comedy. It was a mind-blowing experience. Definitely top 3 experiences I've had. I think it's going to lead to a lot of positive things. I don't necessarily disagree with that. It's good that our influence is going to be in that space. You know, that being said, my critique largely is with Dave Chappelle playing this Charlie Kirk game. And I'll explain in a second. So this is another story. Atsuko Okatsuka details comedian censorship rules at Saudi Arabia's Riyadh Comedy Festival, saying that the money is coming straight from the Crown Prince, who actively executes journalists with non-lethal people with non-lethal drug offenses, bloggers without due process. A lot of the you can't say anything anymore comedians are doing the festival. They had to adhere to censorship rules with the types of joke they make. This is why I am offended by, I think they updated this, because when I had this pulled up originally, I believe there was a quote from Tim Dillon that isn't in here anymore. That's interesting. Okay, it is what it is. I thought they had another quote from Tim Dillon. But Dave Chappelle is going to play this game where he says, I can't say things in America despite having to agree to a bunch of insane rules. Now, let me tell you why I'm not playing this game. I believe in free speech, and I believe there are lines. It has always been the case, and I have always maintained the case, that I won't tolerate opinions that I don't like either. There are people who got fired for their jobs for being racist, and I said, yes, so what? Cancel culture the issue I had is, someone 7 years ago said a naughty word and got canceled for it. They got fired from their job. What? Netflix had an executive who explained racial slurs, didn't use them. They fired him for it. No joke. Insane. You had Papa John lamenting the fact that Colonel Sanders used a racial slur and no one cared. He was critical of the slur. They took everything. They took his name off a university, basically fired him from his own company. That's cancel culture. I have long maintained, if I have an employee at my company who goes on a racist tirade, I'd likely say, you should probably quit. We're letting you go. I got no problem saying it. Don't care. Imagine this. Let's talk about lines. You may be saying, Tim, I don't know. I mean, people are allowed to have opinions. Yeah, I largely agree with that. I have a large acceptance of opinion. How would y'all feel, dear viewer, if it turned out that one of our producers was going online and advocating for child sex changes? You'd be like, fire that person. Why are you giving them money? Why are they working for you? And I agree. I have lines. I have limits. However, if I found out that an employee like 6 years ago called Trump a Nazi and advocated for weird lefty things, I wouldn't fire them for that. I'd say, well, clearly your views have changed and people are allowed to evolve. You're not getting fired for that. See? Because I disagree with cancel culture. However, there is a line, like I mentioned, if they were doing it today. The right has found their cancel culture line. That is the celebration of the death, the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Why? Because this country has begun to venerate, at least on the left, assassins, which means, as I already mentioned, assassins are going to feel emboldened. They're going to feel like, you know what? If I do these things, I may go to jail, but if the left wins, they'll free me. Indeed, they will. If the left wins this political culture war, whatever you want to call it, They'll absolutely free Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson. There will also be more. And that's why I say no, Dave Chappelle. Now, I'm not going to, I like Dave Chappelle's comedy specials. I'm going to criticize him over this one instance and say he should apologize. Indeed, because we found our line. You can make jokes about most anything you want. Almost anything. But, bro, I tell you this. When the left came out, it's not a both sides issue. When the left came out and said, don't say naughty words or you're canceled, Dave Chappelle mocked Chinese people. And as an Asian, I'm not Chinese, but I am Korean and Japanese. I said, it's funny. Please do more of this. I don't care if you want to make offensive jokes that mock stereotypes or whatever. So why now? You see, a lot of these libs, these centrists are going to go, it's hypocrisy, it's free speech. Even Dana White. He's not a lib, but he was like, no. Dana White, you're wrong. Sorry, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan in terms of the business that he built. I am inspired by that. I looked up to this, to him for the work that he's done. I aspire to be as good. And I can say that with respect, you are wrong. We cannot tolerate assassination culture. I don't want to live this way. And I know that he's well off, but he's not in the political space as much as I am. And I get the brunt of it. And I say, wow. I can see what Stephen Carter needed bulletproof glass to go and have a conversation. Insane. And you know what? The left wants to kill, and they're planning to kill again. We have to tell each and every one of these personalities, if you act out in support of murder, there's going to be a penalty for this. That's just it. Okay? I don't want some 12-year-old lib kid to be watching the TV with his parents and see Dave Chappelle laugh and be like, it's funny. They killed him. Ha, 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 ha. You know why? That kid's going to grow up and is going to be like, well, what's the worst case if you go and murder somebody? The left is going to donate to your GoFundMe. You'll raise $1 million. They'll advocate in every way to let you out, and then a liberal jury will free you. I don't tolerate that. There's got to be a line. For the left, the line was disagreeing with their ideology. Insane. You can disagree with me all you want. Me, the line is supporting murder in any way, playing light of murder and assassinations. We can't do it. And it was actually only a couple of weeks ago where I said, well, you know, people can say what they want. And then Will Chamberlain was like, no. A society that supports murder, that allows for the celebration of, has opened the door to civil war. And you need only look at Rwanda, because this is what drove it. Every day on the TV, they said, haha, fascists should die. And it's funny that they did. We're going to make jokes about Charlie Kirk's murder. You are building a culture where people think I'll make money, I'll get followers, and I'll be venerated. Opposite needs to happen. Everyone needs to say, that's the line. But you know what? They're not going to. So long as people like Dave Chappelle don't care, don't know what time it is, so long as people like Dana White, and to a certain degree, Joe Rogan does a pretty good job, actually. But so long as you have these prominent centrists, even the Babylon Bee guys, you know, Seth Dillon defending assassination culture. He is. And he calls it, no, I'm defending free speech. Yeah, there's a line. There's a line. A culture, a society, is its moral worldview. Free speech was never absolute in the United States. Never. When the First Amendment was drafted, blasphemy was illegal. If you blasphemed, you'd be arrested. George Carlin got arrested for swearing. These people come out and say, free speech. Yeah, when? We had moral guidelines for our society always, and we do to this day. Okay? If somebody wants to go out and advocate for awful things that are criminal, that's different. But if we create a society that says we will support murder, you'll get more murder. The left got mad about old, quote unquote, racist things, but it wasn't really racist. I don't think Dave Chappelle's racist against Asians. I think he was making a joke about stereotypes. That's fine. Some things he might say, I might be like, well, I'm offended by that, but murder is the line. I'm not going to keep ranting on this. I'm going to wrap it up there. You get the point. I'm done playing games, man. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone. You know, stay tuned. We got more coming up for you throughout the day, and we'll see you on the next segment.